work session. Can we have a?
I'll make a motion, Chairman, that we vote to open the work session of the planning board for January 25th, 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second? Second. I'll second it. All right, meeting's open.
Aye.
Kathy, what's the agenda?
Hi,
Hey,
our agenda. Here we go. Let me know if you can see that.
there we go.
Okay.
Okay,
Make it a little smaller. Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
First one's a new request.
Yeah, so let me just show you. This is the subdivision at 122 and 132 South Main Street. It's a minor subdivision lot line modification, actually, from an old subdivision application that was approved a number of years ago. I think it goes back to 2006, but they changed it recently, meaning in the last 2 years. But they only have a certain amount of time to file it with the county clerk's office, but they really don't have a lot of time if they don't have the health department approval. So they're actually asking for a 90-day extension to approve, to resolve this with the health department. So they'll be back in, let's see, where are we? 90 days from now. So if it's approved in February, then it's March, April, May, they'll be back. So they don't actually have the date, but I guess that's what they're asking for, through May.
And
Kathy, it's all just because of this wonderful crowd at the health department, or this has been going on forever?
This
There's
one,
always, every 2 months, there's another issue. So is this they're just taking their time, or is the health department as bad as we think it is?
it takes a long time to get through the health department right now. And
Okay.
it's even worse because they have people working remotely. So, so their files are wherever and people are working from home. I think it's harder than usual to get things through. So I don't think this is an unreasonable request.
Okay.
We could ask them on Monday to give a little bit more than what they have in here, as to, if they've heard anything back from the health department, for example, if you'd like. But I don't see anything changing with
why are they
this
requesting
approval.
such short extensions? Why don't they just request a 6-month extension?
So the code actually has 2 90-day extensions as what is in the code, which is kind of outdated, but that's what's in the code. So that's why they're asking for that.
So this is above and beyond what the code would normally allow.
It is, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I think maybe a little bit of explanation would be great. I don't see any problem with it, but I think a little explanation would be worth getting, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Ask them.
Do we have the agenda up? Because I'm not seeing it.
Let me share again. Sometimes because I'm only on one computer, can you see it now?
Okay, thank you.
So I
Thank you.
think I have to stop sharing and then share again when I go from file to file.
Okay, thanks.
Did you
Okay.
did you actually see the plan when I switched over or no?
I did.
Oh, you did, okay. Okay. All right, well, this next one is the same thing. This is
Yep.
65 Captain's Neck Lane and 41 Barnhart Street. Same thing. This is a lot line modification. Are you
Yep.
seeing the plan, Jane, actually?
Yes, I am now,
Okay.
yes.
Phew. Okay. This was to give some additional land to parcel 2 that faces Barnhart Street.
Yep.
Same kind of problem. They are having issues with Suffolk County Department of Health Services. So this is a request from Gail Flanagan and asked that we give a year's extension. And so maybe that's something that is considered for the other one too, is that what's the harm in having a 1-year extension instead? And that's a, maybe a question for Alice.
I mean, I think we can only give the 90-day extensions, as frustrating as it is for everybody.
Yeah, it looks like that we may have given 6 months to this one before though. So that's why I'm wondering.
Excuse
Huh.
me, I do have Gil's hand up if for some reason you want me to allow him to speak today at the work session. That's up to you guys.
I don't object.
I don't know anything except that I've been doing this a while, and I can't recall in all the extensions we've ever granted, hardly any of them are ever for 90 days. They're usually for much longer periods.
Mm.
So if we're supposed to have been doing 90 days, we haven't been over the last several years. It's always
Yeah.
been 6 months or a year or whatever. So that's just why I asked the question, why don't we just go longer? But if we're not supposed to, but whatever.
I think 90 days is a silly time frame when you're talking about something that takes so long.
Right.
So I agree with you in that sense.
So we should add it to the running list of recommended code modifications. I could do that.
And in lieu of the fact that it's COVID, everything's moving even slower than normal. So I think we should have some leeway.
Sure. It's simply unfair to be bound by these short extensions.
So, well, I think we should just do what we want to do, and because otherwise every 3 months you got to go through this whole rigmarole again. So I think we should stretch it out a little bit, as long as it's not illegal or we're doing something bad.
I don't have a strong objection to that. I think given the exigent circumstances with the global pandemic, that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
So does a year make sense, Alice? I mean, it doesn't seem like there'd be any harm with a year.
That's fine by me, as long as it's fine with the board.
By me.
Yeah, I have no objection.
I
don't object either.
Okay.
Dear, would you like me to let Mr. Flanagan in, or did you want to wait till the public hearing?
What is it? I'm sure he's going to be happy. What does he have to say?
I'm not sure.
Ask him to tell us how happy he is.
Gil, did you still want your hand up to speak? His hand is still up, so I'm happy to let him in if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, Gil, I just need you to put your camera on and unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, I was about to put my hand down, but suffice it to say, I'm very happy.
Sorry.
It makes a lot of sense. And by the way, I think Alice may tell you that there's a section in the subdivision regulations that gives you the right to waive any of your requirements too. So I don't think you'd be doing anything illegal or inappropriate by giving us a year. Otherwise, I'll be back in 3 months, and who wants to go through that again?
Right.
So thank you. If you do that, I'm very grateful.
Okay. Thanks, Gil.
Okay,
Thank you.
back to you. Thanks. Okay. So the next on the agenda is 99 Sanford Place, the subdivision of that property in the office district. Ellis and I have gone back and forth on a draft decision for next week. So we're not ready with it yet. But so we can circulate that before the meeting next week.
Back and forth because of controversy, or just back and forth because you're working on it?
No, there's a couple of questions of what should be in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Not controversy.
No controversy. It was just a complicated one.
Yeah.
It changes over
A
time,
little different.
though ultimately fine, I think.
All right. I'm not a fan though of getting the thing at the public hearing, at the next meeting, and looking at it and having to vote on it at the same time. I kind of like to look at them a little bit just before we do that. So if you
I think,
want,
does Thursday or Friday work?
sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that works, right, Kathy?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This next one, I think, is it? Okay, I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a second because I have to bring up a different plan. Stuart had sent over a plan for 7 Powell. There it is. So this was just submitted. You all have not seen this, but I have actually, because I actually went to the site and met with the architect and Stu to talk about what they're proposing. I think it's a lot clearer now on the Squire Holden plan. There is, oops, sorry. Wanted to zoom in here. Right now, you come out of the building on these steps and you make a left turn and you end up right in Prospect Street. So that's definitely a bad thing. So they are proposing that the steps go the other way, away from the street. That's an improvement. The access to the parking in the rear here will be via Elm Street, and it does not need to go onto the MTA right-of-way any longer. So they will be paving a driveway to the back here and putting in some drainage. And they're removing a small alcove, part of a building, in order to create a little more workable space here, because this will be a loading area. He did ask if they could add bring back this building, an old doorway that faces on, oh, sorry, it's Powell Avenue. An old doorway that faces Powell Avenue as an alternative for loading. And I didn't think that was a good idea. We don't want to create a situation where you're having loading into a travel lane of the roadway. But for architectural features, I thought that would be fine. And that's sort of up to the Architectural Review Board.
If
I
you
did
want,
have just,
Kathy, can I interrupt you for a second? On Powell Avenue there, adjacent to the building, you can't park there now, can you?
you can't. The building is literally right on the edge of the roadway.
In that
Yeah.
area is a no parking area, right?
Right, right.
You
So-
can't have guys unloading there.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a few questions that I have on the plan, but like for instance, how are they going to accomplish the heated driveway? Because a lot of times that requires a subsurface system, and I'm just curious what that is and if there could be any long-term environmental impacts possibly. I don't know if it's chemicals or if it's just water. And so there are certain questions like that I have, but otherwise this plan is complete. And I would say this is ready for a public hearing that could be scheduled next week for the March meeting.
Does it
Yes,
have
you
to be
think that-
paved? Just seems like that's all we do, is pave everything.
That would have to be a question for the applicant. There's a preference to pave it. Yes, so.
And what about the northern property border there? Should there be some sort of a physical barrier that stops them from crossing over?
I don't know if it's necessary. I did ask them to have their engineer look into what can be done here because there is a little bit of a grade change. As you know, you've been over there, Tony, right? I'm pretty sure you
Yeah.
said you had been there. So when it transitions on the property line, there's a bit of a grade change. And then the area on the MTA site is these cobblestones. So it's sort of a tripping hazard over there anyway. They can't do anything on the MTA property without permission, so we want to just kind of make sure that the improvements stop at the property line. As far as putting a fence, I would ask the engineer for that input, whether that's going to, because it's narrow as it is
Yeah,
between the
but
building and yeah.
the whole issue is, us sort of approving something that is very difficult to work with the way it is without crossing that line on a regular basis, just to maneuver in and out of those spaces. It's tight.
I hear what you're saying. So the fact that it's feasible, that they can get back in there without going on MTA property is different than what they had before, where they had to what the planning board was looking at, they had to go over MTA property to get to it. So this is
Okay.
different.
In looking at what they've got now, there was some question at the last meeting about what Tony just brought up, sort of the maneuvering around of the parking and how are you gonna, and the guy said that people are gonna be at lunch and there's not, or whatever, people are gonna be, the trucks are gonna not be there during the day. Do they have enough parking? Is it legal parking or is it grandfathered or what's the situation with the parking?
I have a question into Chris Talbot about that because the prior use was actually where the spur was and they had a lot more parking demand than this will.
Mhm.
And the CO has this as being office and warehouse use. So it's not a change from what the current CO has, but it is a change from what the actual use was prior to this. It was a much higher intensity use before.
It looks to me like what, they have 5 spaces?
Yeah. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 5.
And that's what there's always been. And even though they might be required to have more because it's grandfathered, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, so they never really had like organized parking back there.
Mhm.
Never paved or striped or anything.
So I guess
As I know, I don't think it was
sounds like your
striped.
answer is no, but my question is the parking okay? Is it legal? Is it what they need to do?
From
From a square footage calculation standpoint, the building is a certain square footage and isn't that what usually dictates the number of parking spaces?
Yes, and they don't show the parking requirements, and I actually didn't calculate them because the question is, do they actually need to comply with what the requirements would be today? And if they do, they would need relief. Because an office would need, I didn't calculate how many, but if it was an office warehouse, they would need more parking than what they're showing. So the question is for the building inspector of whether they need to go to the zoning board.
And at what point does that thing kick in where if you don't have the right number of spaces, you can pay a fee to the village and overcome the problem?
Yeah, I haven't gotten involved with that with the
Mhm.
zoning board.
I was gonna say possibly using some of the railroad parking since it's not full.
I think that's what the owner spoke about last week, didn't he? Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think we can recommend that though.
No, please don't.
Yeah,
Somebody
let's
else's
not.
property. Well said. Well, I think we got to sort of dig into that a little bit. Just again, I agree wholeheartedly with Tony that we really have to be careful about approving anything that implicitly seems like we are allowing the applicant to take advantage of other people's property. We have to be pretty careful about that. So,
I have a question for Kathy.
Mhm.
Kathy, do you think it makes sense for us to get Chris Talbot's determination about the parking before we schedule the public hearing? Or do you think those can be done simultaneously?
I think I could get an answer before Monday.
Good.
Okay,
But yeah, I think it would be good to get that input.
Good.
So, and what about turning radiuses too? Because it looks like,
Yeah, it's not
can you even
ideal.
turn off of Elm Street down that proposed driveway? I'd like to see those on the plan if possible.
Okay, I can request that.
what's
It's a
tricky
tight site.
is that it's always been done, and maybe it's always been done without the official blessing of village code, but it's always been done. And if I were the applicant, that would be what I would be saying is, hey, it's always been done. Why are you guys giving me a hard time about it? So I think, I do understand that, but I also think it's great that the applicant is doing something really nice with this building and turning it into something that would be a nice addition to that area down there. So I'm,
I was, what do you mean by that, Roy?
what's that?
What do you mean by that?
It's just,
Up- up.
it looks nice what he's doing. He's renovating this building. He's willing to put some money into it. And I think I like what he's doing to the building.
Oh, okay.
Not tearing it down.
Right. Um,
Right,
But-
I mean, right, you would never get something like this under the code now, right? So, it's sort of, how do you make it fit to make it better? And have good planning at the same time.
Right. So let's see if we can answer those questions and come to an understanding that works for the applicant, but also protects the neighbors and follows the code.
Kathy, I have an additional question. Is there anything about the new signage that is under our jurisdiction to consider?
The ARB is the agency that reviews the signage, unless it's actually a physical sign that's being like on posts. And there's nothing that I have information about for a sign. So I will ask that question though.
Okay, it seems like there's a note on the east side of the building. Right there.
Right here?
No, it's
Oh.
just so small. On the far east side. That's the west side. No?
I see it.
On the
Hold on.
other corner. There
Over
you go.
here?
Yep, over there.
Oh, okay. So that on the building, that would be the ARB that refused that.
Okay. And the other discussion that the applicant had about the poles removals, will that be updated for that meeting as well?
I'm sure he will report on that. Those are things that will have to happen for this to be improved.
Okay.
So,
Can we take a look? Can you expand the site plan in the northeast corner where the dumpster is?
can you see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So it looks like that dumpster will be accessed from the west side.
It does.
Okay.
Or they may need to have, I mean, this is one of those things, they may need to have this parking space open in order to get to the dumpster.
Or the alternatives.
Or the alternatives, exactly. But there is a way for him to get to it without accessing MTA property. We're not saying, okay, he needs to do that.
How is the way to get to it without accessing the property?
I mean, the MTA property.
How
So
do you
How,
see that happening? It's impossible.
It's impossible
Those trucks
to,
don't bend.
okay.
that's a very tight spot with that angle.
Okay, we will ask that question as well. I don't know if there's another location.
Maybe one of the parking places could serve a dual purpose.
Yeah,
Just that.
okay,
Good catch, Tony.
yes. All right. Any other input?
Do we have a copy of this? I'd love to print it out at the office so I can study it a little better.
It came in today, so I will send this to you.
Okay.
One came, I think, with an email that.
Yeah,
might
yeah, we
have
got
gotten
it
late.
today. Jackie sent it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Check your day's email, Tony. I think we all might have gotten a letter from the.
Oh,
from
7
the,
Powell. Yep, at 4 o'clock it came in.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay. I'm going to print it right now.
All right, so do you want to move on or?
Yeah, and if no one has anything else, move on.
Oops. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the 15 and 29 Prospect Street pre-submission conference.
Mm.
This is, I think this is the, yeah. Oh, this is my copy of the plan, and I have a note on it that MF 25 zoning doesn't exist, so. But this is the concept. Is the applicant in the audience? Pat?
It's, I do have David Gilmartin here, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, his hand just went up.
Yep,
Would you
that's
like
him.
me to promote him to panelist?
Yes. I think it makes sense to speak with him because this is a pre-submission at a work session, so.
Okay, I just brought him over. David, just camera on and microphone on, please.
Actually, I'll stop sharing for a second.
Oh, there we go.
Evening.
I did. I think everything just got muted.
I don't see anybody muted at all. Can somebody speak?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I think we're good.
Good.
Okay, so David, you want to kind of take it away again and like where we're at?
Okay, we're here for a pre-submission conference. I've consulted with my clients when they brought it in, the property and what to do. And one of the things that we talked about, because we heard that there was a serious need for affordable rental units in the village, is we developed a plan that could accommodate that need. And then we also had a market rate plan that was the original plan that was thought of. I heard Kathy's comment about the MFPRD. I don't know where the engineer got that from, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time with them and expense and getting things changed and brought up to date. This is a pre-existing non-conforming property, so we would probably go the route of what we did with Bishop's Pond, and then similar to the Latch. So we would anticipate that process. I think that Chris Talbot had heard that we were considering a plan and asked me to come in and show him what we had going. He was intrigued with the affordable plan and suggested, and we agreed to come to the board for a pre-submission conference and sort of talk about it and see where the board stood on the two different applications, so that we'd bring one forward that you were more inclined to consider. I'm not trying to box you in any way to give us an approval. We were just trying to get some feedback on where you thought or which would be a better plan for the village. It is my client's preference to go with the affordable plan, but we're just looking for some initial feedback, and obviously we can't hold you to it, but just looking for some input.
Who is Chris Talbot?
Building department.
He's a building
Yeah.
inspector?
Building inspector, yeah.
Okay.
So Alice and I spoke this week about this, actually it was last week, about this as a pre-submission conference. As you all know, the planning board does not issue approvals for a change from one pre-existing non-conforming use to another. That would be something that the zoning board would need to approve. And see if I could say this correctly, the planning board can't really, they're not going to make the decision on the actual change in the use, but they would be involved in the site plan approval as part of that overall review. So we can provide guidance on the type of things that we would require or we expect would be required as part of the review. But I think we agree on this, Alice, that if the planning board is inclined to review an application for affordable, if that is something that is appealing, then I think that's perfectly fine for the planning board to say that they prefer that. But with the understanding, of course, that this has to go to the zoning board. It has to go through SECRA. It will need quite a bit of review. This is a property that has some slopes on it. It's going to need sewage treatment. There's a lot of things that have to happen, but that, with that understanding that if it goes through SECRA and there's no environmental impacts and the zoning board is okay with the change of use, then, it's fine for the planning board to weigh in. Did I get it, Alice?
You did a great job.
Okay, it's a little different. It's a different kind of application, so thanks.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
All right, so I guess in this case, the planning board members, ask away and, what do you think? We prefer the affordable or?
Well, as I mentioned last meeting, in broad philosophical terms, in keeping with the village master plan, I think affordable housing is something the village needs. But as you just stated, Kathy, there are so many other things that would go into this application that just sort of a philosophical preference for that isn't enough to, you really have to cross the T's and dot the I's on every other issue. So, that's my personal feeling about it. I don't know if I speak for the other members of the board.
I also think without having the information between which one is going to have a greater environmental impact negatively, the affordable housing or the high end, it's hard to make decisions if you don't have that information to compare.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the caveats are more important than the outcome right now, based on what little we know. Personally, I want to find out somehow, David, whatever you can do, who is doing this. There's not a lot of space left in the village to redo. This is really at the core. It is a terrible drainage district. It's right there, sitting up on the hill above a major drain for the village as a whole. And there are a lot of issues that could swamp all sorts of other, as Roy said, things that might otherwise be prominent in a larger, more general plan for the village as a whole. So I think it's got to be pretty particular and pretty inventive as to how you're going to use this piece of land up the hill that flows down to a place that's, frankly, in 50 some years I've been here, frequently underwater. So there's a big caveat in suggesting we have a preference, because the issues that are going to arise are really substantial.
We will have, the entity that's doing it is incredibly capable of building this out and doing it in a way that will comply with any approvals that may or may not happen here. With respect to Board Member Claire's statement, you really have to go through the process of SECRA to determine, which may or may not have the impact So, you know, what I would say is the affordable, you know, is going to be bigger in space. So you consider that. There'll be more traffic because there are more units. There will be a sewage treatment plant, so I think it's a better water impact. The as of right or the market rate unit, we have an as of right health department that will meet that. So the pre-existing flow works on that. You're replacing a 252 seat restaurant. So I think you take that into consideration. And I think, you know, once you consider what the as of right is on this property, I think they're both better for the environment. But, you know, certainly, I know the entity and the people involved in the entity, and they're very capable of delivering this in a way that I think you'll be proud of, and will.
How many units for the affordable?
I'm sorry?
How many units for the affordable?
26,
And then for the other, it's 18?
12.
Well, okay.
And just for clarity, Rooney, when you talk about as of right, you're talking about how many units they could get based on the flow that they have for the restaurant, right? You're talking health department.
Yeah, as of right for the restaurant use, right? The current allowable use.
Are there some sort of regulations that determine what is affordable? You know, how is that set?
Yeah, that's actually an issue that we talked about. The village doesn't have that, but the town does, and the town has actually a chapter devoted to it. So part of the town code, chapter 216, and we would discuss with this board and covenant to to whatever regulations that are reasonable, but would effectuate the affordable in perpetuity.
Well, I'm sure, given your history, you don't have anybody but the finest clients known to me. I'm not worried about that. I'd like to know what they've done. What they've done before that you know, that they can point to, or someone can point to, which would be in line with this project. I sense if they built 15 of these or 10 of these, that's one thing. But if they haven't done one of these, I'd love to know.
They have
History, that's all. We'll get to it. I don't have to do it tonight, but I'm not trying to say you don't have great clients. A different problem.
Yeah, you know these people. You know who they are, and I'll introduce them to you at a point in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, you may be able to help me out about this, but if either way, whether you go 12 or 28, is there some village 26 village code that applies to the term of the tenants? I mean, you're not expecting people to be there for a week, are you? I mean, is there something that they've got to be year-long leases? Or is there any kind of definition?
This is going to be a full-on rental. It's not going to be a hotel, and we're not going to violate the zoning code. The intent is for 1 year minimum leases, and we will stipulate and submit a covenant to that effect. These people do not operate hotels. It's not. It's a different business.
You can fit 26 units without going 3 floors?
We have in the plan that we've given you, we've shown it on 2 floors. I'm looking at it to confirm it. You know,
It's unfortunate when it's on Zoom that we don't have the plans in our hands like we used to when we do see things on the screen. As Tony had mentioned earlier, it's very helpful when you have something printed out to see the overall.
Right. We have submitted this, I think, twice.
I'll go take a look at it.
I'll ask Jackie to circulate it, and I'll volunteer. She'll give me your emails. I don't have your personal emails, but I'll ask Jackie to circulate it. We've dropped off twice the plans.
Everybody's
So-
staying away from Village Hall these days, so we should probably go in and look at the file at some point.
It's safe. Nobody's there.
That's right.
Well,
So
I'm
the
not sure how-
plans, oh, sorry.
Go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Roy. The plans that were submitted, I believe, had some elevations, but those were only for the market rate, right?
I believe that was the market rate that the elevations were for, and it's just to get a flavor.
Okay.
And I actually don't know if those were submitted, but I'll make sure they go in tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure how much more detailed feedback we can give you as the board members have pointed out. Without knowing more details, it's hard to give more feedback. So I don't know if this has been as helpful as you would have liked it to have been, but
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. I guess what I'm looking for is my client has a preference, and if you could say, hey, don't bother, it's too dense. I mean, we've gone through this, and they're, again, very capable at pulling this off, but it is a big undertaking to do this. To build the sewage treatment plant is expensive, so it's got to be 26 units. And if you say to me, hey, look, that's too dense in that area, I don't believe that it is. The lot coverage is less than 20%. So I think it makes some sense. Our only challenge with the 26 is parking. I don't know if I'll offend Kathy by saying this, although she's not the author, but I think it's a well-known fact on the east end of Long Island that zoning codes over park uses. And I believe that's the case here, and we'll be able to demonstrate that if given the opportunity with this use. But if you think we're crazy going forward with it, I think that's sort of what we're looking for in this process, because obviously it's expensive, and we're going to go through a pretty intense secret process with it. So if you don't think it's possible to put that type of density there, that's what we're looking for. It's our preference to do it. There's an identified need, and this is probably one of the last chances that the village will have to be able to provide it, and we'd like to do it, but don't want to waste your time and our time and resources.
As I said, philosophically, I think it's great, but you've got to prove that it's not too dense. And if you can't just.
I think I could prove it right now. It's just what will you take as a measurement?
Well, you have to go through all.
Traffic is a big measurement of density. So I think the traffic in a 26 unit rental property is far less than a 252 seat restaurant. But it's going to be how we measure that. How do we measure? So
I look at things like, this is going to be 26 families that will need groceries and drugstores, and that's my biggest concern in this process, is that that part of our infrastructure is bursting at the seams, especially since COVID has happened. So I'm a big fan of the philosophical issue with low-income housing, affordable housing. But,
yeah, it's not low income.
I know. I corrected myself. Yeah.
I want to be. That happened.
I'm sorry.
I've done several affordable housing, and that's always the criticism. and I think they call it a voucher program now,
Yeah.
not Section 8. And I just, I know you did correct yourself, but I want to be very clear. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else watching, but the board, but I want to be clear. This isn't
Okay.
Section 8 or voucher housing.
Right. So, I think there are broader issues at play that we're gonna have to think about.
Right. So in response to that, I'd say the following is, and I have a lot of experience with affordable housing rental. I've done, we have done 4 for a separate entity. And then I've done Bishop's Pond and a couple other condo units, and we're proposing 2 bedrooms, which does not usually end up in families or students for the school district, which is what that analysis is always about. Out here, it's a different type of use. It's generally younger people and retirees, so it doesn't generate children. The second thing I'd say is it's actually the perfect spot when you look at standards to locate affordable rental housing, because it's within walking distance of services that would be accessed by the residents or the potential residents of this property. So I think that your point is well taken, but it cuts both ways. And I wonder what our post-COVID village will look like. I know we're bursting at the seams now, but who
Right.
knows?
Anybody else?
Radio silence.
Well, I think you just have to take
I was going to take one thought away to give to my client tonight. What will I say to them?
take a leap of faith and go for it. I think that's all you can do, because I can't give you a guarantee one way or the other, which
I'm not looking for a guarantee. I'm just looking for, there's no hard no on the 26 units. I guess that's what we're looking.
I don't have enough information to say, to even make a guess at that, I'm afraid.
With the limited information you have.
I would say that with this on even a speck on the horizon of a potential application, that this is going to will be controversial. There will be people in the village who think it's horrible. There'll be people who think it's great. There'll be a lot of community discussion about it. I do not shy away from that, but that's going to happen. And
Neither do I, as you know. And you are appointed to this board, and you're the best of us to make the decision of what's good for the village here. And you'll balance it all when you make that decision.
It's my view that your duty is to surprise us.
That's what I was trying to avoid.
No, you got to surprise us. It's all a surprise.
Okay. I don't know what I'll tell them, but what I'd say is you'll either see us soon or you won't.
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right. We have the regular scheduled meeting next Monday at 5:30. And if there's no further business,
I think there's minute approval, right?
oh, sorry.
The
There is.
12-7 minutes have been recirculated with Mr. McFarland's edits. I don't know if everybody got those. I sent them out probably about 1:30 this afternoon or something like that.
I saw
And Tony found a typo.
Tony.
I have not checked my email since then, so if there is, I can check that. Not a problem. The one from January, I am doing tonight, and I will have it ready for you for tomorrow. I mean, for next week. Excuse me. The edits. I have edits that I have to put in there.
So shall we vote to approve those given Tony's correction?
for the December 7th.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the minutes of the 7th of December.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And the January's I'll have for you for Monday.
Thanks, Anthony.
Great.
With that, it's, okay.
Anything further, gang?
Do you want me to move? I'll move that we adjourn to the work session.
Sounds like it's time.
Yeah.
I think that was secondary. No.
It's the witching hour.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Um,